Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our National Apprenticeship Week 2021 Working Together for Dudley's Apprentices digital event. I'm Charlotte Bradshaw, Senior Engagement Manager for the CMI, and today we're going to be discussing the impact that local partnerships can have on apprentices and organisations. I'd like to introduce you to our four guests this morning. Marco Longhi, MP for Dudley North.
Good morning.
Welcome, Marco. Hello.
Thank you.
Nick Thompson, Dudley College of Technology. Hi, Nick. Rosalie Penn and Sue Edmonds from Dudley Metropolitan Borough Council.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Hi, Rose. Hi, Sue.
Hi.
So it's really great to have you all joining us today. If any of our viewers have any questions today, then please just pop them in the chat box on the right of your screen, and we'll be answering as many as we can. Today's session is being recorded and will be shared with those that book to attend, and it will also be available on our website and our YouTube channel as well. So before we go into our discussion this morning, I'd like to invite each of our guests to introduce themselves and just share a little bit about their role and their organisation's role in apprenticeships. So Marco, if you'd like to kick us off, please.
Well, good morning, everybody. It's a real pleasure to be part of this, and I'd like to thank all of the parties involved, the Chartered Management Institute and Dudley College in particular, for pulling all of this together. I'm a huge fan of apprenticeships, and I guess at various stages of my life, I've apprenticed in some form or another, even though in my own particular case, I didn't have the formal structure of an apprenticeship available to me. So I know just what a real advantage having the ability to couple in-work experience with the more academic side of things can benefit both employer and employee. So I'm delighted to be part of this, and we'll be exploring some of these issues, I'm sure, later on.
Brilliant. Thank you, Marco. And Nick, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yes, good morning. My name is Nick. I'm Head of Employer Engagement at Dudley College of Technology. For those of you who do not know us, we are one of the largest FE colleges in the UK. I'm contractually obliged to say we're Ofsted Outstanding, and we won the Queen's Anniversary Prize last year. We are the biggest college provider of apprenticeships in the West Midlands. And if you know Dudley at all, we've had a huge investment in the last decade, some £60 million worth of new buildings, many of which have been focused on apprenticeships. And we're very excited. Down at Castlegate at the moment, there's the Institute of Technology is being built. That's another £32 million investment, which will enable local people to do degree level apprenticeships. So it's very exciting. And my team are responsible for making sure that employers locally and in the region know about apprenticeships and can access the funding and incentives that are available at the moment. And we also put in place lots of bespoke programs like this one with Dudley Council that we're going to talk about today. And I'm very proud to say that was in the first meeting when we talked about this partnership. And I should also say I'm an apprentice, so I'm doing a level 5 management qualification, so I know what I'm talking about from both ends of the spectrum. Thank you.
Brilliant, thanks Nick. Sounds like a really exciting time for the college. And Rosalie?
Well, good morning, everybody. Yes, my name is Rosalie Penn. I'm HR business partner here at Dudley Council, and I have the lead for making the maximised use of the apprenticeship levy for Dudley Council, where we use the levy for a variety of reasons. We have new recruits coming in as school leavers, and we also use our levy for the upskilling of existing staff, because Dudley is a changing face. It requires our managers and our employees for the future. We need to equip them with new skills to take Dudley along on a fantastic journey. So we're fully making use of the levy. We've got around 550 folks on programme, and we're set to continue and improve those numbers.
Brilliant. Thank you, Rose. And Sue.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sue Edmonds. I work for Dudley Adult and Community Learning Team. Have done now for nearly 20 years. And I am actually a apprentice, or was an apprentice. I completed my course back in May last year. And I have to say, I was sceptical about apprenticeships until now, and I am now a complete advocate for them. I thoroughly believe in them. I have seen not only what they can do for me, but also for all the other people that are on the course, and what it's doing for their job role, their confidence and everything else. So I'm really happy to be involved today, and I really want to be able to share my enthusiasm for the apprenticeship programme. Thank you.
Brilliant. Well, I think that starts us off quite nicely, Sue, because it'd be really great to start by thinking about the impact that apprenticeships have. And it'd be great, Sue, if we could hear a little bit about your journey to becoming an apprentice, and if there are any other routes that you were considering at the time, and what you think the impact has been, not only on yourself, but your career as well.
Sure, yeah. I took part in, I think it was about 2017, in a programme which was put together by in-house through Dudley Council, which was the Management Essentials programme. And it was great, loved it. It was all about the council as well, which this programme, I think it's a stroke of genius, to be perfectly honest, how this programme has been put together. Because it is about the council and about our jobs, our personal jobs. So when I had the chance to take part in the Torch programme, it was great, and as I say, I loved it, but it wasn't accredited, and there was a lot of work involved in it, and I thought it'd be lovely to be able to do something where I could actually get a qualification and out of it. So when the apprenticeship opportunity came along, it was a natural progression route for me. So I didn't really look at other routes. It was very much about going into the apprenticeship. As I say, I was sceptical about apprenticeships, and I did have to ask myself the question, was it right for me in late 50s to become an apprentice? But as I say, I work in adult and community learning. I am committed 100% to lifelong learning. So I enrolled. I think that the course, the apprenticeship route is by far the better route for me. I could carry on working. I could, it's important. I carried on getting paid, but I was learning about me, my job, how I could improve myself, how I could improve my experience with my colleagues. And the impact that has had on me is my confidence level has gone through the roof. Saying that, I'm still a bit nervous today, but 12 months ago, 18 months ago, you would not have got me into this environment for anything. I just wouldn't have done it. But having gone through the apprenticeship route with the college, I have as I say, my confidence levels have grown considerably. I think I've got more respect from a lot of my colleagues as well, because I've adapted a lot of the ways I work. I will talk later about that. But yeah, I just think the apprenticeship route is the way forward.
Brilliant. Thanks, Sue. And I really agree with that. I completed the level 5 ops manager apprentice myself, actually, and I agree with the confidence as you find yourself doing things, I think, that you didn't think you would ever necessarily be doing, and yet here you are doing them. So
absolutely.
And Nick,
Sue, are you being modest? What could you share what you got for your apprenticeship? What grade you got?
I did get a distinction. I do have to say I did get a distinction. And
That's
I
fantastic,
did get
Sue.
one of the highest scores on the we had a multiple choice test that we had to do, and I scored one of the highest scores. So I am quite proud of myself.
Brilliant. You should be. It's a great achievement, Sue. And Nick, everybody that you speak to that's involved in apprenticeships is so enthusiastic. Why do you think that is? What is it about the design of apprenticeships that's so valuable? And especially when thinking about the Dudley College and local skills needs, what is it that the apprenticeships provide?
Well, we've been in Dudley since 1862, so we're completely part of the community, and we've always had a very strong presence in the world of apprenticeships. I think they're great for employers. 90% of employers say that taking on an apprentice benefits their business, and 71% of apprentices stay on with their employer when they complete their apprenticeship, which are really great numbers. And 96% of apprentices say that doing their apprenticeship helped them in their job. So, I mean, the benefits to the local community, the local business community are sort of speak for themselves. You're bringing in new skills with new people. You can use apprenticeship funding to upskill your existing staff, which a lot of people don't realise that's possible, which is what happened in this case with this programme we put together. It's very well funded. So, and at the moment, there's some amazing incentives. You can get up to £3,000 for hiring a new apprentice at the moment with the Chancellor's COVID incentive scheme, which lots of employers are taking advantage of. And the thing about an apprenticeship is, and Sue talked about that, it depends on how you like to learn. It's a great way to learn because an apprenticeship has the knowledge element. So you learn the theory, you learn the underpinning knowledge to how to be a manager, you learn different techniques to use and theories behind management, but then the skills, you apply them and you evidence the fact that you're applying them. So one of the great things about an apprenticeship is that you actually get your qualification just by doing your job. You don't, it's a natural organic thing. And then the behaviours, you also, as Sue mentioned, you shouldn't underestimate the benefits to people and business of the behaviours that people learn and the way they behave. And these are transferable skills for apprentices and behaviours that are going to be very attractive to future employers, if we're honest. I mean, locally, we deliver 59 different apprenticeships. Wow. I mentioned the buildings. We've got buildings purpose-built to deliver apprenticeships in manufacturing and engineering, construction and trades. But we also have very strong professional services offer, and that's where the management and leadership training comes in. So I just think apprenticeships are wonderful. So I agree with Marco on that.
Brilliant. Thanks, Nick. And Rose, we've heard from one of Dudley Council's fantastic apprentices. What do you think apprenticeships bring that you couldn't get anywhere else? And what's the benefit of the council to having such strong links with the Dudley College?
I think we've already mentioned that you work and learn at the same time. So we have this wonderful rule with an apprenticeship, it's called the 20% off job learning. So with anybody embarking upon an apprenticeship, they get 20% of their working time for off job learning. But many of those skills, many of the behaviours that you pick up, you are actually changing and evolving as a person while you're on a programme. So it gets you to look at your when you're on a program and you have a day release, you have a webinar to listen to and engage with, it makes you question what you do at work. And should you be changing to accommodate what you're learning? And those are new skills, new thoughts, and which then lead into new behaviours, so that we're not an employer of yesterday, but we're an employer for the future. So it's equipping skills, knowledge and behaviours into our existing workforce. And then from a new recruit point of view, again, they're working and learning. So this great work experience that so many young people lack, you get when you become an apprentice. But an apprentice in today's world, especially in the council, uses a live vacancy. So they're not extra. So they are working alongside these hugely skilled people, learning different trades and learning different skills from the existing workforce, as well as then boosting their knowledge and skills within on a program of theory and taught content. Sorry, what was the question you said for the second part for me, Charlotte?
That's okay. So what's the benefit of the council having really strong links with Dudley College?
We're the largest employer in the borough. We partner with the largest learning provider. So it's a partnership for us. And I think when Nick and I first met, we knew that we were going to forge a strong partnership between the two of us for the benefit of the Dudley resident, so that local people can get local employment and local learning. So that was really important. But if I take the programs that we have on and if we look at this level 3 team leader that we've done in conjunction with CMI, there were elements of the program in our mind were missing, because we needed to localise it. And we also needed to put it into a local government context. So we met with the college and we said, exactly, we've got some gaps. So we actually had some of our internal trainers deliver on the programme to actually bring in our council values and behaviours. And we also brought in the political element that every local government officer needs to understand when they join the council, that it's a forging of a relationship with not just your job, but also what is the political element telling us that the residents want as well out of the council. So that's how we've joined the programme together to give us the best of both worlds.
Brilliant. And it's clearly having such an impact. I think, to quote Sue, it's a stroke of genius.
The level 3 team leader program is hugely popular, because it's not just for those people who are wanting to take their first line management qualification, but it's also for those people that are aspiring managers. So they're considering, do I want to take that next step? Do I want to move up and take the responsibility of managing others? And it gives you that taster program to actually say, yes, I'd like to go into that, and equip me with some of the first line manager skills and behaviours. And the programs we've got, I think we're into our 6th program. I think Nick can talk numbers, but it's been a hugely popular program, the level 3. But we also offer the level 5 operations manager with CMI also, for middle managers, and also for those that have done the level 3 program and want to do more.
Brilliant.
Yeah, we're on to cohorts G and H in April. So we started, Sue's cohort was in 2018, I think they started. There was 39 of them. They did their endpoint assessment, which means their exams in lockdown, which is quite impressive in itself. And 26 got distinctions, 10 got merits, 1 pass, and then there's a couple more still to go. Those are the people Rosalie mentioned in terms of delaying. And then we enrolled 48 more learners a week before lockdown last year. And I think it's a tribute to them. They're all on track, all of them. And we enrolled another 28 in September. So it's really great. Fantastic.
Brilliant.
And then we're looking at another 2 cohorts in April as we speak. It's great.
That's fantastic. And Marco, as previous Mayor of Walsall, you must be really excited to see a focus on local engagement skills. Do you think that we're going to see more parts of the country follow the close partnership between provider and employer that the Dudley model shows? And what's the feedback that you get from learners and businesses about the skills provision in the area?
So I think it's crucial that we have this level of engagement between employer, college, because actually, if we pick up on what was said earlier, and about the skepticism that I think it was Sue who said about engaging in an apprenticeship, and that apprenticeship, that sort of mentality and thinking can still be part of employers' thinking and even apprentices, because it's something that's, even though they've been around for quite some time, I don't know, they don't, historically, they've never had quite the same image, have they? So what we really need to see to alter that situation is for academia to talk a lot more about apprenticeships, the larger corporates to showcase their fantastic apprentices that have come through. So, you've got that image and the brand that's associated with them as well. And the proof of the pudding is in the eating. And we want a lot more apprentices themselves to show how well they've done, and that actually it's a fantastic career path. So I've come across so many in my lifetime, and even myself, my own experience coming through the world of work has been one in which I have seen that it's always been better to show an employer that you have experience in something. But actually, when you're looking at a young person or someone who's going through a career change, one of the questions on at the interview will always be, well, what experience have you got? Well, if you've not worked in that particular area, or if you're starting out as a young person, you can't evidence that experience. So an apprenticeship gives the opportunity not just for the employer to effectively test out the people that they think they might want to recruit, heavily subsidized by government, as has been stated, but actually for the employee as well to try this out and see if it's right for them, but at the same time get on the job experience and academic qualifications at the same time, rather than have a scenario in which you come out of the world of academia with zero experience and you need to be lucky enough to find an employer that's willing to effectively take a risk with you. I can't support the apprenticeship schemes more, and I think that the secret to make the whole package a success is to have a provider such as Dudley College, that's clearly one of the leading lights, I think, in the country as far as pushing apprenticeships go, really engaged with employers, and for employers to understand what they're getting, there needs to be that level of communication there for it to make it work.
Brilliant. Thank you. Now, thinking about the future of apprenticeships, the theme for this year's National Apprenticeship Week is Build the Future. So a question I'd like to ask all of you is, if we want to build an apprenticeship system for the future, what problems do we need to solve? So Sue, from a learner's perspective, how do we improve the take-up of apprenticeships? And do you think there are any barriers to apprenticeships?
Excuse me. I think because apprenticeships are commonly thought of as just for young people, and I think we need to break that down. We're living proof, Nick and I are living proof, that you don't have to be coming out of school and going straight into apprenticeship. You can have been in your job for a long, long time. And I think that's really important, to break that barrier down and give people, no matter what stage they're at in their career, the opportunity to take up something like an apprenticeship and understand the values that can bring to them. And not only them, also people coming through, young people joining employers, because you're a good role model. You're showing that no matter what stage you're at in your career, you can still carry on learning. And I think that's really, really important that we try and break that belief that it is just for young people. Better marketing through to managers as well. One of the things we came across on the course with some of those in the same cohort I was in, some of the managers weren't quite as on board. They were worried about how much time was going to be taken away from their employee to actually sit and complete their apprenticeship. And quite understandably, you've got a job to do. You're relying on your staff to get that job done. If somebody's off a few days a month, that can have an impact on the rest of the team. So I think managers need to be more aware of exactly what's involved, so they can feel more confident in allowing their staff to take up the opportunities and to actually give them the support and the time that they need. One of the things I was asked to do was talk to potential new recruits, which I did at the college. And the feedback I've had from that has been absolutely phenomenal. That I'd probably say 5, 6, 7 people of the people that were in there said they were joining up because of my experience and how I'd told them what actually happened from the perspective of the apprentice, and it wasn't quite as scary as a lot of people think it might be, even though it did have its moments. But so perhaps more people such as myself have been advocates for apprentices and the programs that are available.
Brilliant. Thank you, Sue. And Rose, from the employer perspective, is there anything that holds you back? And are there aspects of the system which work well but are limited by the rules which we should open up?
Time always holds me back. I've always got a list as long as an arm to move on. What holds us back? The pandemic has not held us back as far as enrolments are concerned. I think Nick has already alluded to that. But we did have to look at our existing workforce for upskilling needs during the pandemic, because it was quite difficult to bring on new recruits while the employees are working from home. That induction process has been a challenge. It hasn't stopped some of them. One problem we did have, and Nick may cover that, we did, for some of our students, say for the construction industry, where they couldn't go into our residents' properties to make repairs, what we did there was we moved their learning also, they could almost bank theory time. So they did a lot. So the college offered all theory learning while the pandemic was on, while the students could not actually gather those skills and practice those skills. And also with the social distancing issue, when you're working with a skilled employee and you've got social distancing rules in place, but it didn't stop us from the learning point of view. They banked their theory hours. So I think that was a really good, flexible way of offering the students to continue learning. Some of our contracts of employment, so we offer a contract of employment for the duration of the learning as an apprentice, so they stay as an apprentice if they come as a new recruit. Some of our recruitment did not occur this year because our existing contracts had to be extended, such as in the construction industry, but they didn't lose their jobs because we were still doing the theory learning with them. And finally, I think the only thing that does stop us, I mentioned earlier that our apprentices do take live vacancies. So we do need those people to work because they're in a vacancy. The levy only funds the qualification spend, so the cost of the qualification. So the cost to the council is that person's time and also their salary. In Dudley Council, we offer national minimum wage. We do not pay the apprentice rate. So it's a very favourable apprenticeship programme when anyone joins us here in Dudley. But we still have to fund that salary. So that has always been a problem. And I think for many employers, we've always lobbied the fact that even some of the salary costs can be funded through the levy. It would be a great help. And this is why the incentive programme of up to £3,000, if you take on a new apprentice, has been an attractive offer for many employers.
Brilliant. Thank you, Rose. And Nick, how about from the provider perspective?
Well, your question, I think, was around what problems do we need to solve? And if I take COVID separately, so obviously COVID has been a massive challenge for education, but I'm proud to say that all of our apprentices, we've continued delivery throughout. We've talked about an apprenticeship having the knowledge, skills and behaviours, 3 elements. And Rose is absolutely right. What we've done, we've moved to virtual delivery of the knowledge elements for everything from motor vehicle. You need to understand how a car engine works, all the way through to hair and beauty. You need to understand how dyes work and health and safety and all those things. So we've been really focused on the knowledge elements all the way through. In addition to that, we work with training providers like yourself to look for flexibilities around how the programs can be delivered. But all of our apprentices, they're still turning up at college, they're still ticking the register, they're still submitting work and getting feedback. It's just being done virtually at the moment. When lockdown started to relax last summer, the first people back into college were the apprentices who needed to complete technical elements. So, for example, if you're an electrician, you need to be able to show that you can wire, that you can do wiring properly. You can't do that through a Teams call. They were the first people in, and we're doing exactly the same thing. We've been given flexibility by Department for Education. So in February, anyone who's approaching their end of their program and the date where they go for their final assessment, they're being brought in first into small socially distanced groups to complete the technical elements. So been a challenge, but delivery has continued. I think I'd take up on what Marco said earlier in terms of the general problems to solve. The big one, very simply, is to get more people to understand what an apprenticeship is. So this is our 5th event this week. My team, that's all they do. They bang on about how great apprenticeships are, and they are. They're a great alternative to university. Institute of Technology, we've mentioned that, Marco mentioned that. You can get a degree, get paid while you're getting the degree because you've got a job, and have no student debt. I mean, I personally think that's amazing. And you'll be able to do that in Dudley when the IoT opens. Talking to, the college sponsors the BAME Apprenticeship Awards, and I met their apprentice of the year, who was a young woman who worked for a bank. And I asked her if her mum and dad were proud of her. And she said, when I told my mother I was becoming an apprentice, she cried. She thought it was a disaster. She wasn't crying the night of the awards ceremony with 1,000 people clapping her, obviously, but that's just simply around understanding the benefits of an apprenticeship. They're great. Yeah. They're great for apprentices and for employers. You know, you get the latest skills, and also, and last thing I'd say, in Dudley, I'm really proud of the fact that I thought when COVID hit, a lot of apprentices would lose their jobs. And it's safe to say some have, because unfortunately some companies have folded. But the vast majority were either furloughed or continued all the way through. And even when they were furloughed, they continued to attend college virtually. So, you know, spread the word. Completely agree with Marco. Spread the word. That's the most important thing.
Brilliant. Thank you, Nick. And Marco, levelling up is, of course, a key national agenda. What is your ambition for what this means for Dudley practically, and what role will apprenticeships play in this?
Well, when we talk about levelling up, what we're basically saying is that historically, there has been, we know that there is talent up and down the country, but geographically, we have always felt that certain parts of the country have offered more opportunities to the people with the same talent than others. So typically, you would talk about the southeast and the Greater London area having greater opportunities to offer people. So therefore, the job market is often concentrated down there, and it's often been through lack of investment and understanding what we've needed to do, and engaging with employers and investing in lifelong learning skills and competences, that we've not done so much under. I'm talking about structural problems that go back many decades now. So even if you talk about, for example, just simple connectivity, improving transport infrastructure, if you have a good transport infrastructure locally, all of a sudden you're opening up opportunities for people to use their talents in the workplace. Because otherwise, if you're stuck in a place that just simply can't reach other places that well, then you're restricting, as I say, those opportunities. So that's what leveling up means. So Dudley, for example, we're getting the IoT built, but we're also putting a metro infrastructure. We're putting in place that will connect us to the rest of the region that much more easily. We're putting a new bus station interchange in Dudley. We're investing in total something like £1 billion in Dudley, an area that historically you just wouldn't see anything like that kind of investment. So it isn't just about creating those jobs by pouring in money and having capital renewed to build shiny new buildings. This is about actually, yes, building those buildings, but putting in the infrastructure that means that we've got a way to maximize on the opportunities for people locally and to move around. So the more able people are to move around more quickly and easily, the greater the opportunity there will be for those people. So we're investing in the skills necessary for the jobs. We're talking to employers and asking them what type of jobs and what type of skills they are going to be needing from people. We're maxing out on investment with apprenticeships. So I believe the government is investing something like £2.5 billion in apprenticeships this year alone, which is about double the number of about 10 years ago. So in 2010. And what we really need to see now, of course, is the economy pick up, business confidence pick up, and whilst the whole planet has seen COVID hit everywhere in a terrible way, the actions that the Chancellor has taken during the course of the last year has meant that we are very well placed to bounce back very quickly. So although we'll be seeing, particularly as a result of the latest lockdown, a sharp probably decrease in shrinking of the economy, what we'll then see is a V recovery, which means it'll go back up very, very quickly, whereas those governments that haven't done what we've done will see much more of a gradual increase. So the whole planet, of course, is going to recover from this with the vaccine. But what we wanted to do is not just save lives and invest as heavily as we did in pharma and get the vaccine back as quickly as possible. But we want to maximize the opportunities of Brexit and maximize the ability. So all of the trade deals we've done, for example, just maximizing the ability for companies to export, which is a very, very big thing. And it's something I'm going to be introducing regionally through our parliamentary export program, which is something I haven't spoken about yet. And it's going to be fantastic. And I think that's when demand grows, we'll see clearly businesses investing so much more. And apprenticeships are the perfect solution for business, because they'll be taking on somebody in a government-sponsored way, extremely low risk to business, but with the qualifications that will be coming to them that are particularly tailored to the employer, because we have asked employers, what do you want from an apprentice? What skills should they have? So we have designed with our providers, the likes of Dudley College, exactly the type of programs and academic qualifications that employers need. So it's a fantastic formula, and I'm really excited about the future.
Brilliant. Thank you, Marco. And that leads us on quite nicely to our last sort of topic area, really, which is really thinking about managing in the crisis. And as you mentioned, it's been such a challenging year and everyone's had to continue to adapt through the crisis. Rose, through your apprenticeship programme, you've invested in the council's management and strategic skills. Have you seen the benefit of that through the pandemic?
Yes, we have. Some of our newly qualified managers have offered to step up and work across some of the areas that are in crisis, and we need to. We have to change overnight when the pandemic strikes, and so we ask for. We've done what we call deployment. So for those areas where we can't operate, such as our leisure centres were closed, our staff have all stepped up and offered themselves to work elsewhere. They've enabled the waste transfer stations to open and put a booking system in place. We've taken on the local track and trace from the national government. And so everywhere we're seeing that, but underneath all that are managers actually bringing that forward and encouraging the staff that, come on, we can do this. And also, you know, right, we might be doing this today, but tomorrow we might have a new challenge facing us. So how do we step up? How do we work together? And we're looking to all those managers that have recently qualified to come forward and use the skills that they've been equipping themselves with over the last couple of years since we've started the programme again, and help Dudley through the pandemic. And it will continue, because the face of the council worker will change as a result of that. So we need to remember those skills that we've got and carry on utilising them, because we must evolve and change so very, very quickly in this time.
Brilliant. Thank you, Rose. And Sue, have you actually been able to apply the knowledge and skills from your apprenticeship over the past year?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, I have, yes. I did mention, first of all, the confidence that it's given me. That also, one of the things I found that I really, really enjoyed during the assignments that we had to complete was project work. And my manager recognised the confidence that I've got built up, and also asked me to lead on reopening centres, because we have 3 centres, 3 neighbourhood learning centres, and she asked me to lead on that, and that was totally new to me. It was again, as Rose was just saying, it was moving away from one area of my work into something totally different. You know, working in COVID and understanding how we could bring learners back into the centres and bring staff back into the centres, and for the staff to feel that their well-being was being taken into consideration, that they were safe to come back into work, and consequently the learners as well were able to come back into an environment which was safe for them. So yes, I put all that into practice. And I'm proud to say we did get our centres opened. We got them open very quickly. Unfortunately, we went into another lockdown and they're closed again. But I've just been asked to look again at helping to reopen them. So yes, definitely, things I've learned have been put into practice. And prior to the apprenticeship, I don't know whether I would have felt confident to be able to do that, to take on something so different. But yeah, I did it, and proof is in the pudding. We did get people back into the centres. We've had no issues, so must have done something nice.
Thank you, Sue. And Nick, are you seeing more interest in from employers looking to build up their workforce capacity capacity in management skills?
Yes. So there's always been a strong demand, because we're a strategic partner of the CMI, and the beauty of the level 3 and the level 5 programs. So to give you an idea, level 3 is sort of AS level, level 5 is sort of foundation degree level. The beauty of the level 3 program is so many people have become what you might term accidental managers. So they're really, really good at their job. And then one day someone says, "Oh, you can run that team," and yeah, you can, because you know exactly what to do. But you may not have the confidence of the underpinning knowledge and the opportunity to work with people. One of the beauties of the council program is that everyone goes into a room, and it's a bit like Fight Club. What's said in Fight Club stays in Fight Club, and they can compare notes, learn from each other, and build that. I think Sue would agree with me that that's part of it. Gain knowledge from other people. So management programs, any company can deliver, can take advantage of a level 3 or a level 5 management qual. I know another company who was a guy who was an architect who set up a business with his cousin, and I met him, and he says, "I'm an architect, but now I've got 6 staff and I'm the managing director and I don't know how to manage them." He did a level 5 program. Perfect. So, that they are applicable. And I think we should, the other thing I would say is, one of the things we learned from working with Dudley Council on this program is that bespoke is now a real word in the world of apprenticeships. So there is a standard, there is a model that we have to deliver, but around that, virtually everything we do now, we bespoke to employers' requirements. And I think that is another way in which they are incredibly valuable. Last thing to say is that, again, as Marco intimated, all apprenticeships now, for anyone out there who's thinking back to the old days of an apprenticeship and an MVQ, those days are gone. Apprenticeships have all been developed in the last few years by employers. So literally they've been written, whereas a qualification would have been written by an awarding body. They are now called apprenticeship standards, and they have been written by employer groups who come together to write them. So they are practical, real world, and of real value. I'll give you loads of examples of how they've changed. But yes, there is a strong demand at the moment for apprenticeships, which is great.
Brilliant. That's really great to hear. And Marco, as we look to national recovery and the future, providing older workers the opportunity to retrain and reskill through apprenticeships is really going to be just as important as providing high quality routes for early careers to really ensure nobody's locked out. As a nation, do you think we do workplace training well enough? And how do we get more from employers and get more involved in this conversation?
I think the answer to that is no, we don't do enough. I don't think you could ever reach a point where you can say that you do, particularly as the world of business is changing. We've just had a huge jolt from COVID, and my sense is that what we are going to have now is a reset of global economic patterns. Yes, of course, some of our traditional way of doing business will continue, but this reset is going to involve new ways of thinking, new ways of working, new technologies, the whole working from home thing, and I think that what the world of business will be very wise to do is actually think about the ability to take on people who aren't just people who have just who are young people, but people who already may not have the actual in-job experiences that they require, which of course they would find a solution for through the actual apprenticeship. But by actually taking on an older person, they've got lifetime experiences.
Mm.
They have perhaps a steadier head on their shoulders. They have the types of attitudes and work approaches to work and experience that only come when you actually live through them, even if actually you've not been in that very specific industry. You will be able to say, well, you know what, I came across a similar type of scenario. And of course, if for example, it might be an HR scenario, then that's a lot of skills are actually very, very transferable, aren't they? You know, one of my experiences was working in oil and gas on an oil rig. And I went through some amazing training to get there. There was about a 75% fallout just to get to that job. And I found myself at the age of 25, 26, having to tell people who were perhaps double my age what I wanted them to do. And, you know, and that brings into play all sorts of people management things that you need to think about, perhaps quite early on in life. That I know that if I could just move on into a company anywhere now, and I could relate probably to my experiences of the past. So this is what I'm trying to say in a long-winded way, perhaps. So, look, you know, I think it's going to be horses for courses, and understanding what horse is right for your course is going to completely rely on the engagement I spoke about earlier between employer and training provider and apprenticeship provider. And I think the more, and clearly there's a very big role for local government in that as well. But I think the more we engage in that conversation, you know, isn't it a novel idea asking the world of business, what do you need? You know, as opposed to just shoving people through education programs and then relying on their own initiative afterwards to hopefully find a place to go. I remember, you know, I'm 53, and my generation of graduates, because I did go to university, they spent years finding a job. And very often they ended up getting a job in something completely unrelated to their degree. And they had to rely on a mix of good fortune, being in the right place at the right time, and actually pushing as hard as they could. But, you know, people went years without finding jobs. Apprenticeships, you know, something like, I mean, I know Nick mentioned some local figures, but I think 92% of apprentices either continue with a bit more training or actually go into full-time employment with the employer they're working with, and that's a huge number. That's a massive number. I'll bet you won't get that number if you ask graduates out of university what those numbers are. I don't know if Nick has got those numbers at the top of his head, but I'd be extremely surprised if you had a scenario in which university graduates could say that they come out of university with 30, 40, 50,000 pounds debt, and then find they actually can't get a job, you know, and they will of course get one eventually, but not as easily at all, you know. So the confidence that an employer has in somebody when they've actually been working with them as they've been trained and gotten those academic qualifications is unparalleled. And you straight away, you're in a position of actually answering that question, well, what experience have you got? Actually, you don't need to answer that question anymore.
Yeah.
So, yes, so for older people, the experience is there in terms of the lifetime. But yes, more needs to be done. More will always need to be done. And that can only be achieved through understanding what the workplace needs and breaking down perhaps some of those stigmatized barriers, as we've had with apprenticeships as a whole, but also people of my age.
Brilliant. Thank you, Marco. And we've just got a few more minutes for a last question that's come through on the live chat, and it's a really great question from Saint Dazza. Can you give us a little bit more detail on the grant incentive for taking on apprentices? So I know that, Rose, you've touched on this a little bit, and Nick, Nick, are you able to provide any more information about the grant?
It is best if it's Nick and I think Rosalie that answer that question. Otherwise, I'll be accused of doing a political sales job.
Nick, is that something you're able to?
Absolutely. So the first thing if you're talking about taking on new apprentices, the first thing to remember, well, an apprenticeship is first and foremost a job, and there is funding to pay for the training element of that. So you've got to be able to hire somebody. And as Rosalie has mentioned, the council are a very good employer. They pay over the odds, but the national minimum wage for apprentices is currently $4.15 an hour, goes up to $4.30 in April. So you've got to pay for that, but you've got to pay for those on costs, those employment costs. But at the moment, there are cash payments available for employers who take on new apprentices. This was a scheme that was launched in August last year, specifically because of COVID. It was initially due to end on the 31st of January, but it's been extended to the 31st of March. If I was, it'd be great if they extended it further. But if you hire an apprentice aged 16 to 18, on the day they start their job, you get £2,000 of cash from the Chancellor under this scheme. There's an original £1,000 available, so it's £3,000 for a 16 to 18-year-old. If your new apprentice is aged 19 to 24, it's £2,000, and if your apprentice is aged 25 plus, you get £1,500. And obviously, you can use that to offset the salary costs. But in addition to that, there is a cost to the training. You've got to pay a training provider to do the training. But again, if you're taking on young people, in many cases, that's 100% funded. And in most cases, it's 95% funded. So you only have to find 5% of the cost anyway. I should also big up Dudley Metropolitan Borough Council. They have a scheme, a levy transfer scheme that they've been operating. We work in partnership with them and also the West Midlands Combined Authority. So levy transfer, the apprenticeship levy is a levy on large employers where if they employ people beyond a certain level, every month 1% of that payroll goes into a fund. And if you are a very, very big company, won't name them, but imagine some very, very big companies, it's very hard for them to spend that levy because it can only be spent currently, as Rosalie intimated, on apprenticeship training. So through the Combined Authority, through Dudley Metropolitan Borough Council and Rosalie's team, they've set up a scheme whereby smaller employers can go to them, and then those larger employers like the council will use their levy funds, their surplus levy funds, to pay for the cost of training. And that's been a brilliant scheme. It's really, truly around thinking outside the box and thinking beyond your business to perhaps your supply chain, or in the council's case, to their key local employers. I think, Rosalie, you've really focused on health and social care, haven't you, locally?
Yes, we have children's care and adult care. But where you go first is consider the area that you want the apprentice in. So if it was children's care, you could then go to the local provider of your choice. They will take you through the steps of whether you get 95% funding or whether there's 100% funding available somewhere. Your local training provider should be able to help you that and then take you through the government gateway to actually pull down those funds to spend against that apprentice that you employ. But you employ the apprentice yourself and then use your local training provider to help you through those finance steps.
Are there other training providers?
I think the government are also introducing a matching scheme as well, aren't they? So the larger employers will be able to identify some of the smaller companies that could do with that support and transfer some of the levy that way as well.
Yeah.
So you know, if you're not in health and social care, but for example in Dudley we've got a lot of manufacturing. If you've got a Rolls Royce, for example, who've accumulated a levy that they're looking to help smaller companies with, then the government, I think it might come live during the summer sometime, but this matching scheme will be in place as well. So in the first instance, I'd say speak to providers, but the government is doing everything to make the whole system work even better than it is now.
Brilliant.
We've been working with levy transfer for 6 months now, plus.
Brilliant. Thank you all. So,
Rosalie, are there other training providers? You said you pick your local training provider of choice. Are there others?
In your mind, Nick, no, of course, but in my mind, yes, there are just a few.
For the record, there are, absolutely.
Brilliant. Well, that's it for this morning's session. So thank you all for joining us, and a huge thank you to Marco, Nick, Rosalie and Sue for sharing all of your insights with our audience. It's really been a fantastic discussion to have as we head towards the end of this year's National Apprenticeship Week. If you do want to find out any more information about National Apprenticeship Week, please do take a look at our website. And if you're a member of CMI, you can jump onto Management Direct using the link in the chat box. And there you can access some really great practical resources and lots of management information. If you've not yet subscribed to CMI, we'd really love for you to join our community. So again, you can just use the link that's going to be put into the chat box and you can begin accessing resources straight away. So all that's left for this morning is just to say a huge thank you to everyone for joining us, and I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks
all.
very much.
Thanks all.
All the best. Bye now.